Hello Blender folks, welcome and welcome back. This is Pxy-STUDY. Today, hold your breath or prepare for jaw-dropping experimental rigging madness for 3D animation in Blender. So this is about skinning, and this is ridiculous, ludicrous, because actually this is the simplest, maybe fastest, yeah, I dare to say this is the fastest way to rig human. I claim this might be the best way, cost efficient, to rig in vanilla Blender, right, core Blender, without any add-on extension that would be paid, right? So more accessible Blender, official Blender, organic rigging method to rig the skinning part of the rig, right, which relates to the character design and how the joints deform. So the most cost-efficient method to rig a 3D character, realistic or even cartoony, like mine is cartoony, because of how this works. So fellows, it is not something entirely new. The techniques here, some are well known, but there are variations. So this is, I'm gonna explain, and then I continue rigging this character until I test everything. So far, so the title says lazy ballistic waves. So let's try to explain this. So let's just say something. Okay, so we got the I'm spamming the chat anyways. So the thing here is that we are going to present first the principles of this method of organic rigging. So why it is, I've been rigging for the past at least 4 years in Blender, learning rigging and doing a lot of experimentation, doing a lot of using shape keys, bones, more bones, right? Armature deform, helper bones. I didn't like too much shape keys, but now I'm changing up my mind. Still bones are important, but shape keys are also important. And this method tries to use the best of each world. And this is what I will not talk about the face rig, we're gonna talk the body rig. Right? So the thing here is that a lazy ballistic waves mean essentially that we got something like this for the waves. It's like a constant fall off of a sphere. Yeah, that doesn't matter, sphere. Then we place full waves here, right, and then we just wave paint. Like, it's very easy to wave paint, right? So it's very lazy in the sense that is super easy, even easier if we have a low poly character. But this method, I've assessed, it doesn't matter if it's low poly or not. For some reason, things I think are locked. Yeah, we have restriction. Okay, so it's just like this, the wave paint, right? So, okay, I need to find the deform bones here, folks. Okay, here is one of them. So this is the wave paint of the thigh. And you see, this is ridiculous. This is super noobish. Looks like a Lego Roblox character. Like blocky, right? It's 1 and 0, right? It's right, 0 and 1, so it's just like binary. How the hell you can do organic rigging with that? That's the first question. Well, and why do this crushing defeat in terms of wave paint skinning algorithm, let's say interpolation, or while the other one is just like this? So yeah, we could even use totally auto normalize here to do these waves, since right, we can, yeah, but of course this is yeah, good rig to use auto normalize in my case. But anyways, I didn't use, but it's a good one. for using, because it's just like that. You see, there is no blended waves and shared waves between the pelvis. It could be pelvis left and right, that's true for the deformed bones, but it's just one bone, like the whole hip, right? And what's happening here is that we have a subdivision surface modifier level 1. I'm using the simplify here to negate the... And you see that when we rotate the leg with an animation, what's happening... Okay, we have shape keys. I'm gonna enter this soon, but let's ignore the shape keys. So this is what's happening. And okay, this is horrid, right? But actually this deformation is clean. This is where it matters, because you see there is no blended weights and shared weights, and that means that the these vertices, they are not moving at all from the skinning. There are no generations of skinning artifacts, because the bones that rotate, now comes the term ballistic rotation, the vertices follow the mesh of the vertices of the mesh follow exactly, without any delay, the bone that is rotating. And so there is no artifacts here. It's just a pure 100% one binary, one full, right, normalized influence for a single bone here. And okay, we could have other bones that expand from the thigh bone, but why? This method doesn't even use helper bones, because it doesn't need that. But we could, yeah, if we want to complicate. I don't see a reason right now, because even muscle rigging, this might not be the best approach. It will be more complicating, so no worry about that. So no helper bones. And here what we get, so it's this ballistic rotation, because the vertices, I cannot motion path them, but you could imagine that it would be something like the vertices would be moving, well, strangely, I don't see the... Oh, maybe it's here. Yeah, okay, here. Yeah, the vertices will be doing this ballistic rotation. Like, let's say, imagine it's a perfect circle. They are totally following the bone, the deformed bone, right? Their respective deformed bone, like a block. So it's as if this leg was separated from the body, but it's actually connected mesh in the same mesh object. And so why this matters? It matters because now, when I'm gonna solve the joint skinning, I'm gonna use just one method, one technique. I'm gonna use what it's usually called the corrective shape keys method, but I think this is a misunderstanding for the approach that I'm using. Conceptually, we could call this as corrective shape keys. Maybe one of them is a corrective shape key, the delta, but the third one here, there are just 3 shape keys here for one side of the leg. So what's happening is that I actually am not correcting anything, because this is not an artifact. This is just the ballistic rotation of the leg stuff, right? And it is being crushed onto the body. Of course I need to correct that, but it's not a corrective when it comes to the sense that I messed up, or the skinning algorithm that is crap, like Neolithic age technology that we are using, linear blend skinning, dual quaternion skinning, preserve volume and blender, and many others that are insufficient for good organic rigging, that it will be cost efficient, spontaneous. That's why rigging, everyone hates rigging, and rigging is so hard usually, and yeah, and people that do rigging become nasty. No, I'm joking, I'm not nasty, but we get bad habits because the technology also, it's I think it has something that it builds up some bad mindsets, right? It produces this like a pattern, as opposed to sometimes animation, right? And riggers are often animators and vice versa for good reasons, right? That is another story. Okay, let's continue here. This is just my opinion, so don't bother. This also I'm being ironic also. Take it with a grain of salt, as they say. So here the because I've been rigging for a while, so I know some shit about the rigging domain. I've talked to many riggers, and I have been also know a lot of animators from the past, so I know some stuff, right? But anyways, it's just some perception. Probably it cannot be generalized like that, of course not. So okay. So the thing here is that if we turn on the subdivision surface modifier, we will see something curious. We'll see that actually these vertices, they seem to be moving, but this is fake news, fellas. This is not, these vertices don't move at all. But because of the subdivision surface modifier has some sort of internal interpolation, it kind of gets this, and I think this can be helpful more than harmful. So this is a good finding. I haven't tried it more, but I don't think this really would help here too much. Maybe it does, but the fact is that it already produced some sort of skinning, and I didn't know this very clearly. That's right. It looks like these were waved by but it's not. They are moving just because of the subdivision surface modifier, and the proof is here because I disable it to the simplify. Remember the max subdivisions to 0, right? Okay, and I make a shortcut for this. Shift Control Alt I, so I never forget. Okay, so we're gonna look at this way for now, so to not get confused. So we start now with the next thing, that is that how we're gonna solve this? Well, we're gonna do the joint skinning not through the bones not through the form bones, not through wave painting. Partially yes, because here is our wave painting, right folks? It's just this and that. I have this and this, and if you want to check the rest, it is like this and this and this. Yeah, it's just like this. So imagine how good would be wave painting if we could just do that and that work. Well, this is actually true, folks, in some sense, because we can, and that totally works. You saw the results, and I can show you the results, especially when we turn on this contraption of the shape keys, what I'm calling not exactly corrective shape keys, but as you remember, the joint, maybe around the joint shape keys, because they would be corrective shape keys more precisely if their job were to correct skinning artifacts from the skinning algorithm, skinning method. But this is not the case, because there is no skinning artifacts to correct, to solve. And this is why this method is more cost efficient in my proposition, in my assessment, because while we make all these waves efforts, creating sometimes helper bones or even corrective shape keys, sometimes on top of all that, to still have a lot of hard work and sometimes bad results and a lot of back and forth stuff, which is typical to rigging, so and CG maybe, but in general, but CG art in general. But the thing is that here we are overly simplifying one of the fundamental stages of rigging, skinning, which is the wave painting. You're making it so simplified, and this is very helpful, including for retakes, because so essentially that means that now once we have this pose here, I need to do the keyframing, right? Find some sort of here I did something more improvised, but just to get something very more radical. And then what we create is a corrective shape key. I'm still calling it corrective, but let's change it. Let's call it like a joint 3, because the leg. Okay, joint thigh X, because it's the x-axis of the that is rotating. It's rotating negatively, and so I just happen to do what we do in corrective shape keys, which is, of course, we need to use this stuff here. Here, if we use the subdivision surface modifier or not to address this, I'm not sure right now, but it's on edit mode. Maybe I think we should, because then we see the final shapes, and I think this is important, although we need to be careful not to mess it up. So maybe we could use this. Yeah, this is difficult to see, I think. Yeah, so I think I was using this way, but feel free to find your best way, but if you try this, something like that. So you see, this is the kind, and we can procure ourselves, of course, to change the vertices which are not part of that vertex group. Yes, because, and the thing is that we are changing vertexes, the ones from the other bone, the pelvis, that hips, that were never moved in this particular case. They didn't move yet, and so that means that when it comes to this wave paint, we can when it comes to this shape key building, we can totally build the corrective shape key, or the joint shape key. This one is not a corrective shape key exactly, it's something else. It is a joint shape key because the joint deforms are mainly being driven or commanded by the shape key. And so it's a joint shape key, and there is a joint Z shape key. So here I'm not, it's already done, right? So it's very artistic, very you know, very, how do you need some shortcut for this, right? Very artisanal, very sculptural, right? And here it allows us to go very precise, because we're not trying to counter anything really, because there's no skinning artifact. Again, skinning, yeah, what there is this clipping, massive clipping, but it's very much easier to solve now, because we're not relying on some crazy deforms that are very hard to, they are counterproductive, right? They are counterproductive to the workflow, in my understanding. And so the thing is that we can change stuff a lot, like as usual in shape keys. So this is a corrective, the joint shape keys is a, maybe it's a type of corrective shape key, a category of corrective shape key that is not considering blended the solving of skinning artifacts from the skinning algorithms caused by rotation of the mesh from the deformed bones when the mesh contains I think I messed up something there. When the mesh contains the yeah, certainly I messed up. Oh yes, because it's disabled, of course. Yeah. When the mesh contains the joint, right, would contain blended waves, paired waves, but we don't have any of these in this rig, at least not for this kind of joint, because we are working in a different approach, right? So this would be a blended waves, because now these waves, this vertex is sharing, right? And we are avoiding this, right? We don't want this crap, because the skinning algorithms that we use, the conventional ones, industry, they suck. They might be not even very well performative, but they don't deliver right enough. They for organic rigging, it's a disaster. We can still manage to survive it, but sincerely, we are almost in 2030. The world doesn't end before that, our war, right? And doesn't look like we're getting anything better soon. So this is why this kind of research, since this skinning algorithm is so bad, well, let's just use the good part of it, which is something that the shape key will struggle to get, which is the ballistic rotations, circular arcs of motion, right? While the deformed bones, if the mesh has got this entire set of if the deformed bones, they have got these kind of waves, right? Then they will just carry the mesh as really very, very close. Actually, it's an absolute control, let's say like this. Of course, the bone has the shape, it has a joints, it has a positioning. Of course, it's not the mesh, but the mesh will still follow with very much precision. That's why this horrid clippings will occur. But this is not a skinning artifact. The skinning artifact does even worse than that, in my opinion, because it never gets it right. And then we use helper bones, and then we use you have to stack a lot of techniques, and it just only gets worse and worse, because then if you have to fix any little thing here, then start to cause other problems there. Here we'll have a little problem of this, but the problems are hardly reduced in my assessment, because of that we got rid of one big issue, which is handling complicated waves, right? Wave paint. I like wave painting. What I don't like, what I dislike, is the limitations of the current skinning methods that use, because they don't have a corrective system in themselves for organic rigging, or they are not developed, they were not programmed or conceived in a way that would look like more organic, right? So I see ways to solve that mathematically, although I'm not an expert, but I know some matrix, some linear algebra. It's like I think just mixing up some, blending up with there some extra corrective matrix and that, or vector, I don't know, or some abstraction, and yeah, I'm trying to study that anyways. Maybe at some point I'll come with a solution, who knows. We need to I'm studying, I need to go back to some books, math books, and study linear algebra basically, and the transformations, and look some content. Then of course it's more complicated, because you need to learn something about how this is applied in programming, computer language, and how it can tweak or make a skinning algorithm from scratch. But this is something that I kind of get very curious about. I really would like to understand more how it works in more depth, because my intuition tells me that, and I usually have a good intuition for certain stuff, is that my intuition is that it's much easier than it looks. It's just that barely no one is researching, and those that might be researching maybe are not getting. Sometimes they are missing some piece. It might be difficult, yeah, challenging for sure, but I'm sure also there are a lot of experimental stuff going on, but it's just that it doesn't seem to lead anywhere so far, and so okay, but this method will lead at least myself somewhere, because now I'm considering exchanging everything to that it can work doesn't need to work on low poly. It can work in anything because it's corrective shape keys. So here I made the Z one. Let's see the formula here. That's exactly what it's about. So basically negative var, because I think it's the negative Z. So basically we need to pose and know where the leg rotates, like it's negative 0.28, something like this. So what you can do is, like, if you want to normalize the, I'm not sure if it's the case, but there's some guy that you pick that value, or yeah, I don't remember now, but you can divide, and this is more, maybe it's more for when you want to match the final position with the absolute value that you have. So this is probably wrong. Let's see where I placed it. And probably this will mess. I should have done this in the beginning, right? So we have, yeah, I think it's here. It's D. There's a marker here. So this is probably the where it has gone, the maximum, and so we got this, and then we get this. And I don't know if this will work for this particular case, but let's see. Yeah, its bare is basically a value of 1, and the thing is very close to 1. So when I multiply this by, yeah, by this value here, the current driver value, the output, right, it will it's a multiplication, it's a division by a number that is less than 1, so that means it will augment the value. But because it's negative, it will diminish the value, of course, but towards negative 1, right? And yeah, right. Why it's not telling negative 1? I don't know why it's not a negative 1 here, but doesn't matter. You see, it matches 1. Now it doesn't mean that the shape key is good now for the pose, but maybe it should be, because that's what I should have done before. Yeah, it apparently is that simple like that, right? So then we have so this is arbitrary, right? It's need to decide, and we have to find the Nozibois. It's a French or Canadian guy that made some tutorials on shape keys lately. That he mentioned, he showed twice this technique, and I found it useful. I didn't know we could simply catch this value. Usually I would try to calculate with multiplications, right? Okay, this doesn't seem right. This seems the right one, and this is the okay, so here is the X, so we gonna get the same things, multiply, divide by 0.886, apply, and now we have a full shape key on this place. Okay, now we go for what would be more like a corrective, right? So, but I'm gonna call joint yeah, it's negative, yeah, so yeah, I would call delta, but I need to have all this, so yeah, maybe I don't need this 3 here, I don't know, because now we can reposition the order of the shape keys, but it doesn't matter. I'll find a better way to name this, because the thing is that I like to have information, descriptive information, but I don't, maybe I prefer that they were hidden in a box that you can write a note, yeah? That's actually a good point, right? Why can't we have notes? So then you can make a title that really is very codish, like Greek, and then but you can store a description, or customizable description and a popover, I don't know, like a tooltip for the stuff you create, like a bone, so you can bring up information inside, that this could help anyone, the rigger, the artist, the animator using the rig, yeah, storing information. Because usually in Blender, when I store information, I use the, but then it's displaced from the rest, so it's not very practical. I'll make that proposition. Maybe it's groundbreaking. What do you think, fellas? So here, okay, so now for the delta, right? The delta is this, of course, for this rig to be complete in my assessment, I need to make this for more backbending, the diagonal there of the backbending and the side bending, then maybe an inward rotation. And that this inward rotation, I don't know if the leg needs to be, I need to investigate, right, a little better, but I have, in the worst case scenario, we'll have to make like, so I have 3 already, then we have, certainly we'd need at least 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, then maybe we'll need, for inner bending, we might need 6. Yeah, in the best case scenario that I visualize for this character, it will be at least 6. Maybe just one inner shape key would solve the inner when the leg is in various positions inwards, whether from the back or from the front. But otherwise, in the worst case scenario, maybe we might need additional, instead of 6, you'll need 5 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, maybe 8. Yeah, the more the worse, right? And maybe one of them might be a delta or more than one. I'm not totally sure, because there's an advantage here, but it gets tricky, is that the leg cannot cross the other side, so there's a limit, right? So that's why this is an interrupted way of the leg, right? Alright, so here what we're gonna do is that we're gonna look for this driver, and the thing is that this is the product of rotation X and Z, and this is not perfect, right? It's very abstract and crappy. It doesn't really solve. It's still, when the leg, let's say, interpolates from one pose extreme to the other, it doesn't necessarily provide the good transition, and this is a nightmarish problem, because there is just no way to solve this in a cost-efficient way. And so the delta procures at least some like keyframe breakdown that will help a little, but it will still be crappy in my estimation. It's not patching. That's why rigging, organic rigging, is very bad still up to this day. So there are methods that can do, like the fan bone. I was thinking about maybe I could use a little fan bone to, but I don't know, because actually it will be an inverse fan bone actually. I need to try out, like, but I'm not sure how it would work. I need to test. So maybe it could help a little, but you know that will start to come up to complications. The forms are quite good actually with this step. So, and we have the subdivision surface modifier help. Maybe some other modifier could help. Okay, so rotation X. So it's the same thing there. It's the same stuff, but they are multiplied, and this is the product. But now I need to, for that particular pose of the delta, I will divide this block to that output, and now okay, so I understand what's happening here, folks. It's of course this is horrible, but the thing is that when I was modeling this, so this was so tricky. When I was fixing this delta here, I can turn it off, right? We have this. Maybe we should restart, right? Yeah, because so many things have changed here. Yeah, so I was modeling it, not sculpting but modeling. I use modeling because I want to be more exact here. I don't like sculpting for this, so I have to mask. It's not so precise, and yeah, but it could work too, but I prefer here. I find easier to control with more precision, but it's more annoying, right, to get some effects, right, sculptural effects sometimes. And so yeah, we can shape these other ones. I already mentioned that. We can use proportional editing. So you see, I've made a lot of morphs here that we're far extending. Whoa, what's that? Oh no, this is just so I found something horrible today. Unfortunately, it relates to my favorite tool, that auto IQ option. I discovered a really bad thing that I wasn't aware, and again, it relates to interpolation in Blender, which I think is not too different than Maya in that regard. There's a convention, and unfortunately, I think now I understand something that someone was, Paul Hansen, I think, was mentioned something about it. But it works with F key and that, but I didn't really understand what he meant by that, except that it's an arc of motions, right? Ballistic, perfect circular arc of motion, and are only limited to that, which is good and bad at the same time, right? So, but then I found out what was this about, and that collapsed. I still tried something to in order to try to bypass the problem, but I think it's not inconvenient. Not only it's very inconvenient, it crushes certain systems, including the one that I'm using. I'll show in a moment what this is about. It's really bad. Fortunately, so that will push me back to waiting that or finding other resources like that could improve interpolation, and even or waiting for this expanded auto IK core development for Blender by Paul Hansen, right? Or even some guy that I don't remember the name, Nacho the Andres, someone that would be working on some sort of he already made paid or partially paid add-ons, I think, which I don't find very generous, but yeah, maybe people need their own money some way, so okay, that's fine. But it's something so much relevant. But now I think this guy is willing to make a development for core Blender. I don't know if they are paying him or not, or he's doing, but I think it's a cool person, and I never talked to them, but I know that they are in the domain, and I never used the add-on because it will be not too expensive, but the add-on seems expensive. They seem to be very accurate in the things that animators would need in a software like Blender for 3D animation, because it tried to solve this kind of issues regarding maybe simultaneous I key, IF key in more organic ways. I think I haven't tested, unfortunately, but I think I saw some reviews and some feedback, and according to the concepts that were discussed, it does look like that it goes towards a good direction. So I think if there's not much information about this project, but I know it's under development, and I wonder if it will be core Blender. I think it's for core Blender, because after he has sold enough of this add-on, maybe, I hope he did, because I think, even though I haven't bought, I think it should be a great experience, and some of this now maybe it's time to share for the public, the big public, right? Because I think digital technology, right, has a purpose in the world that in society that is because you know the digital brings in some certain way this infinity, well, not infinity, but this abundance of copies of stuff. And so if something is really good in the digital mean, I think it deserves to be shared. This is a political standpoint and maybe a bit yeah, it's a political point of view, right? Very radical. I think other things need to be shared too, but this is one thing that is particular to the digital technology. This rapid and let's say instantaneous reproductivity. Well, not always instantaneous, right? Duplicating something sometimes take a while, copying files or whatever, sharing, but there's the download thing, right? But the and whoever say that that's extra things, that nothing is free, well, they don't know what they're talking about, because actually, yeah, there are a lot of people, this big business, they got a lot of money from free, from you, from me, but no, but only them can get for stuff for free, right? We work for the AIs for free. Like what do we get in exchange? YouTube is for free, like they steal everything from us, and what do we get in exchange? Yeah, I'm here, I could be, why don't I own 1 cent doing sharing information? No, I need to have a, no, it's all bullshit, right, folks? Don't be bullied by these manipulators and assholes. Essentially, it's all there's a inversion of values there going on, very serious stuff. And then we have people that love to, because maybe they were successful in this kind of world, or maybe they were not even successful, but they are struggling, they're striving, they're trying, and then they are about to sell their souls to that shit, or they already sold it and they might not even be aware of. Anyways, the thing that yeah, the digital has like great powers come with great responsibilities, right? So I think this is the thing, right? If we see this point of view, so that Spider-Man, so or his uncle, but it's the same thing, right? It's the movie, it's the ideal, and so great powers come with great responsibilities. So that's why when we have something good like this thing that I'm showing here, this is power, right? So I have the responsibility, I think, to share. I could make a course of this, but I don't have the time to make a course. I don't know how to make a course properly, and even if I made, I don't know if I would be able to sell it, or I don't know who would buy a course. I don't have experience making course, at least publishing course. I don't know what's happening to this leg here. I don't know what is the front, or doesn't matter. This topology is different. Like this topology in this method is not important so much, except for the mesh density. How many vertices do you want to be tweaking? You can sculpt, of course, with the shape key, and because in the end it's all about the shapes and the amount of vertex you want to be morphing. It's not about the topology being used in terms of the wave paint. It's not really related that much. It's a bit related because there is still wave paint going on, but you see, so this topology was for me more about making a low poly character with okay shapes, nothing too fancy here, I could go more details. I think even with this mesh, there's some topology here that could be improved. We could use any topology in this method, so this is a great advantage, right? You can totally discard attention to topology as long as you can do this with trigons, right? Because the deforms, right? Because the thing budges as a block, as a tubular thing, and then the solvation is from shape keys, which really can control these even trigons everywhere. Of course, that doesn't mean that we can totally do any crappy topology. No, topology is still important here because of the face loops, facilities. There might be some impact in better results and also forming better shapes, because sometimes regarding the way we are using the subdivision surface modifier, we get some spiky elements. Sometimes the curvature goes in the bad direction. Yeah, so we can all solve this with better topology, but the fact is that the topology we're doing here, it needs to be thought in a slightly different way. We're not doing the topology here to adjust wave paint to them. So this is very refreshing, I think. If you are like me, that you love this see the mesh topology of the characters like an artwork. You see all the possibilities you can do. It's a puzzle stuff, but it's funny, right? It can be funny. I had a lot of fun with that, but it's like these puzzles of topological puzzles, I think that are very beautiful. Now I got sort of used to them, so I don't see all that anymore. I see why they existed, but I still like the stuff. And here it's kind of crude. It could be much better, but you got the idea, right? We don't need to care too much about the topology, because it's a joint shape keys which are solving the joints rigging, and the rigging of the joints is the most difficult part. And here this is made mostly as a piece of cake. Yes, it will still be a bit challenged to get the delta right, and of course there will be some hard work in the sense of achieving yeah, so at least we normalize here this, right? This is wrong positioned. Yeah, it's this one. We want this to be here. Yeah. Okay, so you see I'm swapping towards this X, the Z, the X, the Z, and the delta. So even if the shapes are not ideal, it doesn't matter, because this is just it's just an example, right? I'm getting practice in the method. So now we're gonna approach other topics here, because now of course we can go into a blending into methods, now going for more the conventional way of wave paint for features like the torso. So why, but I'm not sure, really. I'm not sure. We're gonna see, because you see this is what is okay. We're gonna test leg. Okay, no, not this. We got I'm gonna destroy these actions. Yeah, we don't want them. We don't want them. Okay, we can delete them from the Blender file here. Blender file option here. Yeah, because for me they are. I need to delete. They are distractive. Let's take this off. Let's return. Oh, those things stuck. Whatever. I didn't know that could happen. Alright, and now we're gonna go to all the bones. So I'm gonna show you now the problem which I found. I'm very annoyed, of course, that I just could find this now. I don't know how this escaped my, or maybe I was doing something wrong, but yeah, something that I failed to understand. So it turns out that when we do this motion, this is another of those tricky, of course it's not totally my fault, because Blender is tricky in when it comes to 3D cursor and interpolation. For example, certain options don't respond, like what responds to posing doesn't need necessarily response in interpolation. So the motion that we see here, if we select a pivot point, doesn't always correspond to what would be the interpolation, and this is a disgrace. This would make this is what destroys rigging animation in Blender so much. This is why Blender suck in 3D animation, actually, because compared to new incoming technologies, doesn't mean we can't animate in Blender. No, we can make great animation in Blender for sure, but when it comes to the quality of life, efficiency, this is this is why it's so bad. Now I know better, because like if we see Cascadeur, maybe Unreal Engine, what these softwares fellows that develop for this what they are doing, they understand the needs of animators, right? So they really go, they don't care about the needs of the riggers, they care about the needs of the animators, right? Or the need of the developers. Not they go to the final stage of the thing, right? They want to make a software that works for the best animated, the best of the animation thing. And so even one of the programmers is an animator, the one of Unreal Engine, or at least he conceived the, I don't know the story background, but yeah, it's totally possible. Sometimes like a single person can do many things, right? Programming, rigging, animation, modeling, painting, singing, whatever you want. So there is no mystery in there, but unfortunately, yeah, there is a project for many projects, right? Remember Blender animation layers, right? Turns out that apparently we don't need animation layers in Blender so much, because Blender already has animation layers with some. I found that a method that I need to check better, but I think I know a way to do animation layers in Blender without animation layers, and it's a bit. I could try to expand this today even, because I believe it works, because I did that in a task that artwork that I was doing animation lately, and I never used the nonlinear animation for anything important. Then until then, oh, let's use this thing that maybe I can handle that, and then I understood, because at the same time before I was animating web series in 3D animation blend with cartoon characters. So then I was doing stuff with the. I was not using nonlinear animation even when I was using walk cycles, because I hated this stuff. I thought it would be very bad to use it, so I didn't have the skill set. I have studied it, but no, thank you, no. I know some potential for it, but what I was doing apparently, and then, but I like to learn new stuff, so eventually came the opportunity where I could focus to learn it for solving concrete problems in a more relaxed state. So then turns out that the thing is that I was doing for the scenes of the animation episodes, I was doing full action, like a timeline thing, right? The action, and then of course thanks to this development of the instead of using the dope sheet, usually I was using the slotted actions to stack objects and different character rig models and assets into scene that had or maybe had not rigs. You could animate materials, animate the camera or the camera rig or whatever object or armature or extra stuff. So you got shaders, whatever could stack there. Some things sometimes you need to go back to the dope sheet grease pencil. I think it's tricky. The things are still under development, I think. But then we're doing the whole. I was doing the whole scene as a single action for all the stuff. So everything got a single action. And then what happens that we can actually use the non-linear animation led by that single action in the timeline or the action editor instead of the opposite, because what the tendency it seems like that people use the NLA adding, at least that was how I saw it. People were stacking strips, animation strips, and and that would be their final product, would be this what is here, because this works almost like, because it strips, it remembers like scenes in video sequencer editor, right, which also has strips. So this will be the final aspect of the leading thing for the project, right? But it turns out that actually it's the opposite in Blender. The opposite, because when you get the action, a single action for a scene, you might have to split the file sometimes because the scene, there's too much key data here. That doesn't matter, but I imagine you can stack everything, okay? And then this is the leading, the action editor is the leading thing, and we just bring up the NLA editor that is an animation strip that maybe the walk cycles would occur. Say the walk cycle will occur here, say. So there is the only position where I care about using the non-linear animation, because here is my layered animation. We can do layered animation with some modifiers, right, on the curve editor, right, already. Those are count as conceptually, I think they are relatable to what would be animation layers, because you can blend the motion of the channels of the bones, right, of the curves, F curves. So the modifiers of curves, they indeed they count as like noise, stuff like that, right? They count as some sort of animation layer, but it's very primitive. It's procedural, it's okay, it's cool, but it's not animation layers yet, because you need the NLA editor. So that means that we don't lead the scene, the animation of the scene, through the NLA editor, because we lead by the dope sheet editor or the action editor. I would use the action editor, because then we have the action and everything goes up here. And then what we do is that, where do I need some layered action? Like, for example, if I want a cycle in a certain way, I can use a cyclic non-linear animation, but just to solve a problem of a particular frame range, and all the rest we can totally ignore what's happening there, as long as this complicated garbage here that we need to always be careful about. I don't like all these channels there that pop out all the time. If your rig model has a lot of stuff, then everything is stacked here in incomprehensible ways, and nothing of that is important. I just try to remove them and they don't get removed, and I don't know, it's crazy. But very bad design. But the fact it actually this is actually works as animation layers if we use it in this other method, which I never saw anyone talking about this, or I don't remember if I've seen on occasions. But Usually they are noobing out the non-linear editor animation. They talk that is the greatest thing. Yeah, it may be good for if you're doing some small pieces of animation for this or that, but its limitations and design for it's very complicated actually. It's very non-organic, nor but it can be good for, I think, animation for games. Sometimes you need some because then the torso moves in one way, then the legs in other way, so that's interesting for games at least, at some particular animation challenge. But then there is the idea we can render the non-linear animation as led by the action editor, right, in this approach. So because now we can use the action editor, because now we have the greatest thing, that is the of course it is the this stuff, right? It's still complicated to it took a while to understand how this works, but whatever. This is the slotted actions, a great concept that unfortunately when I was animating it already existed for that scene, so that's great. Then it's still tricky to use, but it's after they are still expanding it. Anyways, so let's go back here, folks. Sorry about all that. Now we got, maybe that was important, very important top subject though, but I think it's not the best way to explain for sure. So here's the terrible thing that I found out, and I haven't really understood it for a while, but this is what happens with unfortunately with when we use the pinning feature of the auto key. And it turns out that I think there's nothing you can do about this. I tried, maybe there is, but I think there is no way to handle that, unfortunately. So the thing is that you see that the ankle seems to be pinning, right? And indeed, if I validate, it is pinned indeed, but then the interpolation, you see, it goes F key, because then it doesn't adapt to the pinning, so it's an illusion again, just as the 3D cursor. So that means it's very weird, because if this is creating an auto I key, if this auto I key option in this feature here that I'm using of it, that seems to pin, is creating a temporary I key bond constraint. Well, this I key bond constraint doesn't really work as the original one, because in the end, as we validate here in console, because we got this crushing of the ankle from, let's see if you, and this gets we don't see here because we need to, you see the motion of path of this bone, right? So this tweaking will happen, yeah, and this won't occur with an I key bond constraint. So I missed that for months, several months. I never figured this out. Now I figured this out, and this is a tragedy, because now that means that we can't use this pinning feature for a lot of things, because actually there is no pinning just on posing, but when it comes to interpolation it won't work, as we can see, unless there is something that, unless there is a fix that, you know, I don't think there is a fix. Yeah, certainly not that, right? You see, initiate to final, it's okay, but the interpolation, it goes nuts, right? And of course I push down the bone there, right? And but yeah, the fact is that the foot is moving. So one way to solve that, of course, is that if that I was trying, but of course that will change, I guess, the length of the. It will be some kind of stretch or squash of the mechanism that might not be very accurate for the character design. I am wary about it, but yeah, it's like you see, it's okay if the ankle does this little tweaking, because if the foot stays on place, there will be a hope of still using this. But then there is more problems, because if I really want to have a motion of the foot, um, then there are some situations that I want to use this stuff and I want to move the foot. I need to make more tests, so maybe there's still hope, but the best hope is that really new solutions come for Blender for this, like the expanded auto key, like there's also a geometry nodes approach. Someone replied to me, it was about the one who was developing the feature is I don't remember now the name, but some sort of pose modifier in geometry nodes. Now that geometry nodes is getting armature, yeah, the idea is to make our geometry nodes modifier for the armature object, and precisely that would expand the possibilities of manipulating the armature object, the skeleton, right, through the geometry nodes. And that, I believe, would relate, according to what he explained to me. I asked if, okay, but is this something about rigging nodes, like making, in the sense of making rigs from scratch with procedurally or through a node system, like in the case of Mantis rigging nodes extension, which I tried, but it's under heavy development, but it's a bit updated, unfortunately, for Blender 5.2.0. Otherwise, I'd like to use it again, but yeah, so that will be a rigging nodes system, rigging nodes that focus on the building rigs from scratch, drivers, automation, everything procedural, like visual programming. So it's very ingenious stuff. Node Spaghetti is the one developing that, but he's very busy with academic stuff, so it's work is just crazy. But I hope you get time. So then we get the animation nodes, which I'm not sure what this is about. It's another concept. And then I don't think there's anything like this for Blender, but and then we have something that would be what I would call in Blender's UI pose modes. No, let's say tools and options for pose mode nodes, right? So basically pose mode nodes, which is actually very relatable to the nodes in Unreal Engine, where we can shift the options. We can decide how the control rig behaves, or how the rig behaves, not for the skinning but for the control rig. And this is what Unreal does, but it does with a special system of ephemeral rigging, which implies a structural thing to the interpolation system, which I don't understand. But it doesn't matter, understanding that it is more complicated than just a rigging nodes system in the case of Unreal Engine. That doesn't mean that we can't have versatile control stuff in Blender, and one way to achieve it, I thought, was expanded auto key is from Paul Hustle is one possibility. Maybe we get more developments on this year, I don't know. But then there is this geometry nodes called, named this as a pose modifier. So now that's kind, now it dialogues totally with what I'm thinking. And even if it's not necessarily ephemeral rigging, it doesn't matter, because Blender can, I think it can totally do its own way. Maybe. Yeah, I believe it can. It's because ultimately the automation, it's relational to the UI. It's not just and there are already evidence that there are ways to tweak the interpolation and the motion paths that we can make draw something that will on the screen, or even with annotations, or with I have an extent, but the problem that I found is that it doesn't make a Bezier, it bakes, and I hate baking, it's garbage. But the add-on is great because it's free and it works with this. And it is motion path, is this thing? Yeah, I think it's this thing. But I don't remember how to use it right now. No, I think it's not this. Traject anim, yeah. So the problem is that it bakes. I haven't found. I thought the grease pencil would be nicer, but we can. So you can make a manual curvature, like one add-on that is paid, that was for something like this, plus timing, that you can draw the timing like a dope shit, not like animation, traditional 2D traditional animation. And this one, I'm not gonna test it, but just showing that this exists, and it's free. It's an extension, project animate. I could just use with the annotations, and the grease pencil, I think it's more complicated, because then apparently you need to transform into a curve. It's kind of tricky to use, so I was expecting something easier, but a little training kind of. But for me it's useless, because the baking, yeah. And also I want the curvature. With the annotation, you can apparently because you cannot edit the annotation in Blender, it just makes a curve that is a planar curve. Like you cannot draw a curve that is three-dimensional, like a grease pencil that's totally three-dimensional. So that would be a better motion for organic, all sorts of motion. And unfortunately, then the grease pencil, you need to convert into a curved object in order to work, and then you need to bake, and it's complicated, right? So maybe it's the same for the other add-on that is paid, which is also intricate, but at least we have some solutions here. So you see, it's still not on the point, but it's very generous that someone made this stuff. So that's actually, so I tested it. It sounds good, but I need to more thorough test to see. Maybe I propose something. If he could make simplifications of the use. Okay, so folks, let's go for something else here. Let's try to add some more bones here, and so currently we have this we don't have a spine rig. So what we have, you see that the deforms of the spine is not horrible, in spite of the, well, yeah, if you do something, you see this is actually not bad, and this, yeah, this is a little worse, right? Of course this would be not like the character would sit more like this, yeah. So we see that we have stuff to, yeah, I haven't solved the other leg. Why this thing? Oh yeah, because I have changed the strength of the shape key, so I need to revise every shape key, right? Because now it's too strong. Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but this doesn't matter, because this is just a whip anyways. Now my understanding is that I want to see if which kind of method I will technique I will use to solve the spine rig. So if I'm gonna use deform bones like in a conventional way, or if I'm gonna use instead the joint shape keys, that is, do I treat the spine vertebra, the torso rig, the snake stuff, as some sort of do I treat this thing as some sort of how to say, joints? Yeah, they are. They can be considered joints, but like intermediate joints, because they bend in all directions, but there are a lot of, maybe not a lot of symmetry, but they don't bend too much, right? And they are very close usually together, and here I'm not sure where I'm positioning that, but the thing is that anyways, when it comes for the waves, we'll need to so I'm not sure this is the best way to rig this right now, so I'm gonna ignore. I'm assessing what is better here. Okay, so we want to make the deform bones here. We're gonna Control Shift D. Gonna instead of gonna go for this is too slow, right, folks? Okay, so seems like these are correct now. And we're gonna test out the first so this is curious because I'm not sure at all if I don't know if it will work or not, right? So ideally we wouldn't need anything with but the subdivision surface modifier to have this that I would like to happen, right? But maybe, so this is the last point, so it's not gonna blend here. You see, because this is not so much a complicated part of the rig for in terms of might not even be considered a joint. We just will do this, right? We are lacking waves, so this is the torso, so this is more interesting, maybe. So yeah, the reason the head is separated, maybe I will join in the end. It's for organization, the shape of the shape keys, but Also, you see there's no mirror modifier here, but this is helping a lot in this Blender version at least. Here for the neck, yeah, the base of the neck will, as for the base of the top of the hip, will grant this as part of the torso, because this is the logic. As for the shoulders, now I'm not sure because this is a different part. The topology here is, I think, is bad. The shapes are also bad. It's very crude. So for now, let's use this for the torso. And oh, there's the neck too. So the neck is just this, or maybe that other thing is not the neck. The reason I separated the head is because the topology of the head was not ready for the cartoon character that I want here, and then I need to tweak, and then I really don't like to be editing. I don't have the workflow, a good workflow without a mirror modifier. So then, since I had to apply the mirror modifier for the body, because already using the joint shape keys, right? The joint corrective shape keys, I needed to apply, and then I kept separate. My idea was to separate anyways because of facial shape keys. But I guess soon enough we'll get folders for shape keys. They're getting very well organized, right? More than vertex groups, but they will also get boosted soon. And so here we gonna get folders, and then we can organize everything here too. And then I think this won't stop being a problem, except for the mirror modifier. But actually, in this case, none of them will have mirror modifier. One day maybe we'll be able to have auto symmetrization, where the mirror modifier is would be versatile alongside with the shape keys. So it's like you could negate the certain aspects of the mirror modifier, so that we could maintain it as we build the shape keys. What's happening here? I think there's something wrong. No, it's just shading apparently. Yeah, just shading. Okay, so yeah, I forgot. We need to wave paint the head to the bone here. Very simple. And now we also need to, maybe this is not rigged. Yeah, it is rigged. Okay. Now we're gonna check if now the great moment appears. I want to see. It's a very simple test, but it's very important for this method, because I want to see if this crude. First, let's see without the subdivision surface modifier. You see, the stupid, the lazy waves seem to work for the spine. It's hard to believe, but yeah, they seem to work for the spine, and even for, yeah, not too much for the neck, right? So here and here even worse, right? Because these are already intermediate joint, right? It's not like the torso, but it's not that bad actually. And now with the subdivision surface modifier, yeah, this we might join in the end. So yeah, actually this is the thing here is that if I try to solve this with bones, I'll have to or to wave paint, right? I'm not sure if this it will, for me to look like I'm losing myself to another technique. So I want to maintain this clean with the original approach. There is one tricky thing about this joint corrective shape keys is that we have the problem that we need to solve the stuff in a very analytic way. Like, no, in part is organic way because we shape them manually, right? To sculpt them, or to sculpting, or to modeling, right? Mesh editing. But the thing is that we also, yeah. So here, of course, the problem here is that we need to control the mesh of the spine through another bone. I know how to solve this actually. I just was messing around, but it's more about we have just one deformed bone, but it's actually we can have two control bones. So it's like something like this. And this will be hip sway. We can call this yeah, like we can call this pelvis. It doesn't really matter, right? We can call this hips, and that this one is looking up. It's hips. Okay, hips, and we parent it to this. That means that now we got still not working. Now we need to connect. So there's a bug here. They didn't solve it. They said, okay, so now we have this. They said that it would be possible to, okay, this is horrible. So this is where we might, the problem is that we'd have to make corrective shape key for all the orientations for each single bone. So if so this is annoying, but you see, it's while a simple wave paint in this case could be blending, could solve the thing, right? So this is the thing that maybe in some joints, let's say this is not exactly a joint, one method might be better than the other. But the cool thing of the shape key is that we could really get it also the position of the bones and the topology are not helping. But anyways, yeah, a lot of things that are messed up. But anyways, we got yeah, plenty of interesting things. But this is, you see, that would be how that will here. Of course, we don't want this. What we need is to allow that this bone now is being able to be controlled by this, not by the pelvis, right? So it's like a we're gonna make the fake parenting bone constraint. Yeah. So there is some displacement of the control bone, but this is not a big deal because usually you can just reset this. They can have some sort of same parent. Yeah, we have now they changed the system, so I don't know what's the best approach now, so I'm gonna try something here. Yeah, they have changed the system. I need to see. Yeah, this will limit a certain thing, but okay, this is like a. Of course, this works like a center of gravity, right? I like also to have these bones bones. Oh, we could make them into bee bones, right? No, actually the deformed bones need to be bee bones, right? If you wanted to use the... Okay, so you see the ridiculous weights they work for minimalistic for certain amount of deformed for this mesh, but then we also need to... Okay, so here for this other part you're gonna... So yeah, I would just have to use my older system, which is the IT bone constraint, but for the... until I find something else. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna use the... gonna make an extension on the... on this, right? You can also duplicate this. That now this will become a stick bone. We gonna align here. We're gonna no, we're gonna have them to be like this, so they are like it's a mechanism key owner left. Yeah, I do this way. I've been doing this way for other reasons. So because I try to use the auto key in my rigs, but it's not even sure it's the best approach, but it doesn't matter. Now we got could it be connected? Why it needs to be connected? I don't remember now. Yeah, it's probably there's a reason for that. Anyways, then we gotta... maybe we can align this thing here at this point, and then we can reset here, reset here. We're gonna symmetrize already, but then we're gonna get... we could have an key target, but for now let's just do this. Chain length of still 2 and not use tail, right? Okay, and then symmetrize that, and then apparently no, we don't have a target right now, that's fine. And we're gonna move this to, yeah, this. Okay, then maybe we'll do this again. Yeah, so I have just one possibility here. That's okay. I think they are still gonna expand this feature. Certainly. I do as Rigify? This one is up, right? Yeah, that's it. But we need to do some renaming here. Ah, this is already fixed, right? Okay, now we also need to start the wave paint, right? Which is ridiculous in our method here. Yeah, better maybe the mask, but this also works. Or not. I have some challenge here in this part. Some vertex there just too close. Okay, I think now I got it. Wait, where is the deform bone for the hand? This is a deform bone? No, this is not a... I think I missed something. Ah, it is here. Alright. Actually, there is the ankle. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep it simple for now. And then this for now we just parent to, yeah. This is incorrect in my approach, but this works for now. How come this is displacing? Oh, this is it's not the right one, right? Yeah, so some shapes need some adjustments there. I'm not sure what's going on. Did we change the... Yeah, I think we changed No, it's something that's convoluted there. It's just requires some adjustment. Maybe it's something about when the leg is twisting, maybe it's some weird ways, something to be addressed to. And then we need to bring up the form. Yes, so let's see how this works, right? We see that for the joint, an intermediate joint, it's actually pretty good, right? Of course, we can see, and there's not corrections yet, so this is the most ridiculous part. Okay, that's not good in all rules, but we can exaggerate, and mysteriously it's better than many wave paint that is done. Actually, there is... Of course, my objective would be to improve those things, right? No, this is... I think I'm messing up the shape key. Yeah, I need to do this from the basis, and also I think here this is just causing trouble. So here it's I'm unsure what would work best for this topology, but yeah, the subdivision, it gets mad at the it wants to separate, right? I'm kind of interpolating, so I don't like to make more, but let's just see if this can be of any help. Anyways, the wave paint is all the same shit, so yeah, here I think we start to crush the wrist. It's worse. Maybe it's worse than before now. Yeah, maybe I wasn't looking very in all, but this is the typical artifacts, but although these are not artifacts, right? Because they are clipping, but you see, there's no control hand, so it's not control hand. Correct. Okay, so this is right. So as for the joint, yes, so here this is a simpler corrective. This will be the more conventional, easy way to get a corrective shape key here, but we can actually even do more if we want to have other orientations of bending. Notably, if we wanted something more like this, we might need something. So then we might need a delta. So I don't know, this is a simple joint, so this one should be enough because there are X here. We only rigging literally, so this is the simplest fix, right? If we keep it this wrist joint without for shape key would be more time consuming because it's all directions, right? And why this is not responding now? The rotation, of course, we need to have the we got. And you could drive this, but the foot is more complicated because they are the ankle leverage system, which is one of super complicated systems to get if you want to be applied to inventive rigs. It's like can be very tricky. Okay, but here we got this for now. This is just temporary. I would do more here, but the idea is to get rid of all these systems. I'm so crazy about this kind of stuff that I was thinking lately of having a rig that might not even use inverse kinematics, like just loose bones, and I would find a way to get their F key to just to get the arcs, right, and instead of loose bones. And yeah, I was considered that could be for certain parts of the body much better to pose in some because of other. But you see, I've been animating characters in 3D with I rigify, and I don't even use the I key F key switch and snap. I just use the default the I key mode, and I just interpolate what the hand rig, fingers rig is good, right? It's like we can it gets the job done. There's nothing too much special about it, but it's not bad, right? And it works for most things. So indeed, we don't need a super rig to animate, right? It's just that rigging, right, start to give some ideas, at least for me, and then that is a big rabbit hole, and that is not probably the best way to waste to employ time, right? So yeah, we forgot here. I'm gonna parent offset here. I think no, there's no full target, right? It's just that. Yeah, so the inner banding we can address here. It's not that bad. So maybe we don't need a correct joint shape key for the inner banding, but possibly we might need one for. I hate that, so I don't have F key now. Yeah, this. This I key. But there is one guy that made a system similar to what I was trying to do somehow, but that seems to. I have to test his system again, and maybe that can do some simultaneous. Maybe it could be a solution for the time being. Okay, this is ridiculous. This is not gonna work. This setup at least. So. Because you create a system, then you think that is good, and then it creates, or the control rig, I mean, same for the skidding maybe, but in this case I'm talking about the control. Then you create another problem like, oh, pull target is great, then you create the pull target, it's not great, it creates also some trouble, and so forth. Yeah, so this pose probably might require some fixing. Anyways, it was not polished enough after I made the thing anyway, so you don't have the great idea right now. Okay, so we haven't gone very far, right? The thing is that I get the base rig here for the base waist, and they shouldn't go beyond that, because besides, oh, there's something that is interesting, right? I would like to understand. I'd like to understand more about the. Ah, this is interesting. Let's see what happened to this joint now. I need some bone here. You see, this is now this is normal, right? But this is not. Wait, what if I? Here I'm curious what we can do without the auto IQ option in this. Okay, without. Yeah, because it's offset, we can do this. So that's regular stuff, right? Nothing special about this. So it's not moving outside its place because it's pinned. And I turn on then the auto key. What does it bring? No, there's a conflict, right? Usually I have another bone here that can. Here we don't have an IK bond constraint, so would that be... No, but this is not the pinning. Yeah, the pinning, that would be the problem, would appear here. We'll be able to see. That the interpolation of this joint will displace. What have happened? This unexpected, so it shouldn't be like that, but whatever. It's not time to test those things. Maybe it's because I have the other keyframe, but so this for the deforms essentially. Yeah, so it's a lot of work. Here there's the problem that we don't have the rotation for this arc, but we can, I know a dynamic pivot, but without automation for it, some sort of add-on or tweaking, it will be very bad. Here already I know that the pinning won't be useful, but we're already using we'll need probably full target here. Okay, so enough of this. So folks, I think I've lost the performance here. So basically, I need to assess better where do I need the correct shape key. Certainly, and if we can make blended waves in the end, it's some parts that will be easier to rig in that way. So we could like not trying to be radical, because the thing is that if I need to make corrective shape key for every single joint with this one, I have to make a shape key 1 here, then I might have to make another for this, another for this. It's a lot of work, and in this case wave paint could be tends to be faster than, because it's not just the shape key, it's the driver, is the thing. So but there, however, for the joints specifically, then the method, as we have seen in the most complicated joints to rig, is the complex joints, the hips thigh joint, the pelvis femur joint, right? That one we got it, at least one part of it, but the rest is, we already know that it should work, because if we solve this horrid artifact, this usually very hard pose here in the exaggerated way I got, right? That means that it should be entirely possible to solve the back bending as well, right? So this is interesting. This doesn't rely on auto IQ to make. Yeah, I can't control. There's no IQ stretch, right? Actually, that's why I have some limitations to Okay, okay. So I'm looking. Looks like I'm doing some random shit, but actually I'm just looking at how things are, how bad the skinning is so far. But it's not that bad, right? And what could be the next steps? So yeah, I'm truly considering the regular wave painting, although on a very simplified mesh for the torso in general. But finally, when it comes to the joints, we're gonna use the corrective shape key, this system of the joints corrective shape key that is be economical, right? In some sense, because here we could try a fan bone. I also have to see if we could an inverse fan bone. Actually, the idea of the fan bone is yeah, it will still be the rotate. No, I think it will be too complicated, so it's better just to get the shape key and that's it. The problem is that, yeah, and then there is another problem. I'm not sure we'll have to fix deltas. Ideally, yes, like this diagonal, but maybe it won't be necessary. It will be imagine 8-shaped keys, so that's overwhelming, right? Then you have to make them symmetrize, but that's why I need to investigate case by case, right? This is an intermediate joint. This one is much easier. Simple joint, although might need more than one. If we get used to the method, then maybe this is not a problem, the corrective shape keys in general, because this is a simplified version of the corrective shape key, because we are not correcting, right? So we are actually making the shape, preventing the clipping from super crude non-blended waves, non-shared waves. Again, showing what that means. There's no blended waves here, and so there's no skinning artifact here formed, because although the art skinning methods try to solve this problem, it makes it worse in many portions, especially when you rotate too much. Of course, this will happen already bad, but when the skinning algorithm is supposed to make it easier for the riggers, it's not that easy, because then it doesn't solve, it creates other new problems, the skinning artifacts, different ones, that looks like a bit like this, but because this is crude, I can then more easily solve this immediately, because I have the fresh system, right, to solve. And because it's low poly, it's even easier, or should be, but this could be applied without. So I'll need patience here to more focus, more concentration to investigate, but I'm sure it will work. It already worked for the worst case, and then it is just now a question of getting everything done, and then I need to know what I do about the control rig, which is an entire different dimension. And for the face rig, folks, I'm gonna go essentially full shape keys, except for the head, right? Maybe the eyes, the iris pupils, but the mouth, the eyes, the eyebrow, all this, I'll go to shape keys, even eyelids, because I don't want to do armature deform garbage anymore. It's like yeah, this one, yes, but because maybe for some little helper system here and there, but or the stores or whatever, but I want to maybe some extra tweakings here and there, who knows, but I want to I want to get more in touch with the shape keys, because I got understanding now that the shape keys, they, for facial expressions, they, whether they are used as corrections for armature deform, often they are used like that by riggers. Today I was watching that Zadik, right, from Cloud Rig and some Blender Studio projects, right? He's a rigger, programmer, so he was telling about his vision of rigging, organic rigging, that he was saying that for facial rig, I'm not saying this because I agree, though, I understand, but somewhat what the essence was speaking, but I think it's one method, right? So he says that he would consider that one approach that is good for him would be to go full mainly armature deform for the face rig, and then use the shape keys for corrective shape key. Well, I now think this is pure garbage. No, I understand it's a great method, but it's like something like that. I was going full armature deform without corrective shape keys. I could go corrective shape keys, but I know it wouldn't be any easier than what it might even get more complicated, because then you add another dimension of technique, right, to solve the problem. Although it's a good technique, right, to know about the corrective shape keys for facial rig, and even with using the full shape keys. Now I prefer to consider this will be my next project, by the way. In this character, indeed, I want to make a cartoon facial rig with mainly driven by shape keys, dumping everything from armature deform except for the head bone, maybe the jaw. There are some exceptions, yes. The eyes, your irises, because it takes a while, but it's more controllable because it's more artistic, more sculptural. The armature deform creates a lot of unexpected behavior, and most importantly, I found out that the tweaking is not that important. With just a good shape keys plan, this might be hard to find nowadays, but there are a lot of reference from mocap, right, that we can take from the structure of the mouth and the eyelids with the irises. It looks stiff because you have to build everything. It looks like, but actually it's pretty versatile. I was animating with that, and the tweaking with the presets that we create for shape keys, they don't need any tweaking, at least not for an economic animated series, web series. Is just good enough. So all this thing about tweaking would be like with armature deform bone, which shape keys can do. It'd be something for feature films, like short feature film, medium feature film, long feature film, like high quality stuff, more polished stuff. This is not my stuff, right? I prefer something more stylized and economical, my thing. So this is why looking for efficiency, I didn't knew that shape keys were so efficient for posing, because when you have to pose bones, still have to pose the control bones, right, of the shape keys maybe, but when you have the tweaking systems, you don't have the efficiency of the shape keys unless you make a super automation, so it's very complicated, right? And while the shape keys is very intuitive to get. You want that expression here, you want that don't have to tweak anything, so it's much more economical to build. Bit of hard work, but it's much more satisfying, because if you're looking for the final expressions, you'll get them every time. Except for the deltas, but this will occur in some cases, not in all cases. So maybe be careful about the certain transitions, but overall it is manageable, and I think it's way more manageable than armature deform. It's so a complete inversion in my mindset, just because I was rigging and animating cartoon characters. My Little Pony fanfic web series. This soon episode 7 will be released. It is in it's Brony Pony Productions. It's a YouTube channel, and then in that episode 7, I animated one scene, the scene in the Switch store, but I'll show up and I'll bring information when it's finally delivered. Mid-August probably. So that's it, folks. So that will give some more insight in this method. It's not that groundbreaking, unfortunately, but I think the result of the pelvis is not. Yes, it's a stylized model, so maybe need to get more tests with other characters to see if. But it sounds super promising, right? When you have a base mesh like that, also everything looks good. Usually, even if you do some crap, but I think not. I think in this case I'm getting solid results with this strange approach, right? Method. So it is called again the lazy ballistic waves with and joint shape keys or joint corrective shape keys, more a specific category of shape keys that are not meant to solve skinning artifacts because they don't exist. What exists is clipping and extrapolations, unwanted extra. It's not the same thing as artifacts. So this is why this method is valuable. So we can ignore the lot of very complicated and uh, maddening back and forth in the rigging regarding the wave paint aspects and the control bone, the deform bone system, helper rig, whatever. We can ignore a lot of those things, bypass these approaches for most part, and just focus on what is fun, which is sculpting the shapes, right? Or modeling, editing the shapes, shape keys. Although you have to get used to various orientations and the drivers for certain things, and there's a few more things like we need to drive like a min max to know when the driver will apply to a shape key when the bone reaches when the leg moves back, but we don't want the same effect. We need to be careful about that too. This is something that we can do in drivers apparently too. Just learn by friend Fuse, another uh, rigger animator, is making projects, animation projects. So and then he was also developing something about this. And no, it's not. This is the transformation bone constraint, which can, so this min and max, we can do this with the driver expression too. It will be something like, I'm not familiar, but you get the min, then you have some value there, and then comma, and then this will be the min, then minimum, let's say 0. Something like that. But then we can also have uh, a max. I don't really know how. Now you can get one inside of the other, and that means something. I think the mean usually go outside, but I'm not sure. So, but I have the information. It's we can get this online. So it's this will do what this min and max do for the transformation. So it will just there's a range that we can adjust that could define which to which extent until when this, for example, rotation will apply to will uh will bring up new incoming, keep growing the output, right, of some automation which could be here. So in the end, if we go until a threshold here that we define that this is the maximum, then the rotation here, okay, it stops there, and even if you keep going, it will stop here. And we can do this for one direction, positive maybe, and then for another direction, and that will give another command, so that we can, yeah, this can be more complicated because in the transformable constraint we might need two of them, otherwise it becomes symmetric. So I do one for the the front effects, and then the other for the back effects, and the driver will have to do something like that, and that's it, folks. So thanks for watching. Take care. Happy blending. Have a see ya next week probably. Hope that was useful somehow. See you, folks. Happy blendering.